Hi there, YouTube. Welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm your host, Bill Whittle. It's Thursday, the 7th of August, 2025. Um, I think if you saw the, hi everybody. If you saw the Facebook post, you saw that I've got a big announcement to make, and I do, in fact, give the room a little time to warm up and settle as we usually do here. Hope everybody's doing well. I was I was here till about, I got in yesterday afternoon, and I got out of the studio at about 6:30 this morning. I worked all night, um, and I worked pretty much all night the night before that. Uh, Not a sad tale or anything, just this is not really work. I just really love it. But yeah, I've got a I've got some fun stuff to show you, and kind of an announcement that I've been talking about um, on and off for a couple weeks now, and I'm so excited about it. I can barely hang on. Just wait to see a few more people here and let the YouTube stream saturate. So yeah, I've been working like crazy. Um, the We have I'll probably run it twice. I think it's probably the thing to do. David Boutte wants to know if I'm selling the Camaro for a Kia. I'm hoping I won't, which is part of the big announcement, so they don't have to. So we had some problems again with the plugin, which may not have been the plugin's fault. Don't worry, we'll get there. Like I said, I'm just kind of let the room soak a little bit. Um, that may have been a fault on Recurly's end, which is one of our two online banks, Recurly and Stripe, and it also may have been my fault by accident. I deny everything. But what I would like to do again, because we are about to go live with this whole dog and pony show, we've done this, I don't know, four times now. But I would like to see if we could just do a couple of test signups, because last time we checked it was working, and so in a minute I'll put the links up. I think we found out that you don't even really need to use a real email address, but you do need to use an actual credit card. So if you're already a member and you want to invent an email address, I think that will probably work. You won't get a confirmation email, obviously, but I think that'll work as far as the sign up goes. And we've been very prompt about refunding all of that money, and I can do that now myself. So if anybody can help us with a test on signing up, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll open up that link in a little bit. And yeah, Speaker Steve says, give me your credit card and I'll sign up 100 times. So we would like to test to see if that's working. I made, it looks like, we don't really know yet, but it looks like I made a mistake, kind of a well-meaning mistake. Wasn't something I did on purpose. But you probably remember me saying that several months ago, in order to get the speed up, we moved the website over to the fastest servers that the internet had, for general sale, which at the time was called A2 servers. And I thought, okay, we got a slow website. I'll get us on the fastest servers we can, and I'll get a dedicated server, and that should fix the problem. And so that's what we did. And it didn't fix the problem. And what I learned after the fact was that we had moved from a host called WP Engine, which was a WordPress engine, and we'd moved to A2 because they were known to be so fast. But we have a very low traffic site. It's a little intensive in terms of all the pictures, but the amount of traffic we have is extremely small. It's 50 a day or something like that. I haven't asked Grok to fix the website because I don't think Grok can do this. In any event, we've already got a developer, and it looks like we're pretty close. But anyway, here's what happened. So moved it off of this WP Engine thing, and the developer thinks that one of the reasons that I think one of the reasons that we're still having problems with the speed when you're logged in is because number one, a WordPress server caches images better. And there's a lot of interaction between a WordPress server and WordPress itself in terms of the plugins and the tech support and optimization things, none of which are available on the server that I moved us to. in good faith, but probably a bad decision. So I was going to move us back, which brings us to the to where we are tonight. So one of the reasons I've been working like crazy and neglecting the right angles completely, just not doing them, is because it occurred to me that after much discussion and some talks with Jeremy and some other things, that the thing to do would be to go back to doing firewall afterburner type videos, because that's the brand, that's what people got to know me as and what they wanted to see and so on. And then, of course, one of the problems with that is that they're pretty intensive to produce. And it's just, a guy standing in front of a green screen talking and so on. And, the views went way down from, we were routinely getting mid six figures down to the last 3 or 4 that I did 20,000 views or something. It's a lot of work for that. And I thought people just don't want to see them anymore, as you'll find out in a minute. But we had a couple things happen. First of all, I mentioned that, Jeremy and Daily Wire wanted me to do a series that was kind of debunking conspiracy theories, and I said I don't want to do that. Most of the people I know believe in at least one of these things, and I just don't want to lose members and so on. But after significant thought and I think the thing that probably pushed me over the edge was a couple weeks ago when our friend Eric Blake on the Twitch stream said, you really need to do the definitive moon landing debunking. And I said, I really do. I really, really do. I'm just tired of watching this. And then and then another member of our Strata community here, I honestly don't remember who. Hopefully you'll chip in here and tell me who it was. Somebody suggested calling them truth bombs, and I like that an awful lot. But what I realized was that with the AI technology now, it is so easy to do things that used to be unspeakably hard. And I thought, okay, this is something that I could actually get excited about, because I really like working with this format a lot. So here's the big announcement. I was working like a crazy man to make a deadline of August 6th, which was yesterday morning as we record this. The reason I was working like a fiend, just a fiend, was because the 6th was the 80th anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima. And my afterburner on the atomic bombs is one of my very best ever. I think before I started doing the Daily Wire stuff, it was my favorite thing I'd ever done, which was like the first thing I ever did. And I was really, really trying to make that deadline, and I didn't. And I was saying, man, if I stay up all night, maybe I can make it this morning. But it was just too much work, and that really bummed me out. And then I realized, hold on, the end of the war is coming up. I want to say it was the 13th when the Japanese surrendered, which gives me a little bit more time. And so I rebranded the beginning. So what I did was I shot some new footage for the front of the atomic bomb fire afterburner. The 9th? No, I think we dropped the bomb on the 9th. I don't know when the second bomb on the 9th. I don't know when the official ceremony was, but at least I have a few more days anyway. So I changed it around September 2nd. Boy, that's even better. I changed it around and I basically changed it from how Fat Man and Little Boy at 80. It's changed to how Fat Man and Little Boy won the war. I probably should say ended the war. And so I shot some new footage for the front of the afterburner, and I shot some new footage for the end of the afterburner, and the footage at the end was designed to be kind of a membership pitch. Now, I've probably got about half of the end of the afterburner in the can, ready to show you. But the good news is that the break point I'm 50%, 60% of the way through it, but I'm 90% through the work because there's a montage that you're about to see, and I spent 2 or 3 days on the montage. So the problem is that I was hoping to start the membership drive on the 6th, and once again that's delayed, and we still want to test the membership thing, which we'll do in a few minutes, but that leaves us cash short, and so what I want to do is tomorrow, starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow, we're going to do the first stratathon. It's going to be a 10K 12-hour stratathon, whichever comes first. Starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow, I'm going to go live, and it's not even so much a question for our Twitch friends as just kind of a request. I don't want to do 12 hours with 2 different streams, so it'll be a YouTube-only stream. And I'm going to go from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. Pacific time, live, and I'm not leaving. Now, a significant amount of that time will be screen grabs screen sharing of me editing the right angles that I've been behind on, and we'll be taking questions live from the chat. We're not going to do a question segment for that because that is going to be specifically and exclusively for live PayPal donations, and I'll just do 12 hours, and if we get to 10K before 12 hours, then I go home. If not, then after a 12-hour show, then I will I'll stick around. Now, Speaker Steve already is saying I'm slacking off. He says you're doing a 12-hour show. That's half of the 24-hour show you said you do. So maybe I will do a 24-hour show. So Marisha says super chats. Actually, no. I really would. I'm going to try and discourage super chats. The super chats pay on the 22nd of the month, and what we really need right now is just some instant cash. So it's going to be exclusively the donation at PayPal page. So, you know what? Maybe I'll just commit to 24 hours. I don't know. I'll just, it's like dance marathon. I'll just do it till I drop. But I'm just going to stick with it. I don't know. We'll see. 24 hours is a little tough at age 66. It was easier when I was 36. I don't know. I might, at 24 would be pretty tough, but I'll try. Marisha says I wouldn't discourage super chats. Money later is better than no money, except that we are really in trouble. And if anybody's going to make a $50 or a $10 donation, I really prefer it at PayPal right now. In fact, that's what we're going to do. So it's not like I'm going to refund a super chat, but I'm definitely going to be doing it. So anyway, that's what we're going to keep doing. Don Vickery says YouTube keeps 30% of super chats, those swine. So you can expect a stratathon starting tomorrow at 6, and I will go through at least 6 a.m. the next day, and I don't know, we'll see what happens after that. And that's gonna be tough because I've been up a lot lately, and I've been up a lot lately because because I've been working on something I want to show you now. The first part of this, the pre-roll to the to the atomic bombs afterburner, I'm pretty happy with. The part afterwards is a little less good in terms of some of the effects. Will Natasha make an appearance? Yes, I think she will. Here's what I'm about to show, and I'll show it again before we close this thing out. I'm going to show you the pre-roll for the afterburner, for the atomic bombs afterburner, which will run on the day that the war ended, and then I'm going to show the post-roll. So you're going to see a clip at one location. There's going to be a little bit of black, and then you're going to see another set of stuff that is going to come after the atomic bomb firewalls, and will end up being a pitch for membership. I'll take live calls from my fans. Yes, in fact, I'm going to set up a Zoom account, and we can have Zoom conversation. We can do the whole thing. We will, like I said, we'll do a lot of screen sharing. You get to watch me edit the right angles. Just going to be gonna be fun. Every now and then I'll just drop in a video and stuff. That's why I can't really do it on 2 streams. It's just too much. So those of you who are watching on Twitch right now, it's going to be a YouTube only thing. So there we go. All right, so I'm real excited about this. I'm going to show you again a pre-roll to the atomic bombs afterburner, then a post-roll to the atomic bombs afterburner. The post-roll is not finished; it just cuts to black. But the first thing that you hear after the black, the thing I'm about to be doing, is you're going to hear me say, "Look, I understand that some of the video is still a little jinky, but it's moving so fast. I mean, some of the stuff doesn't quite look like me, but it's moving so fast that here's Will Smith eating spaghetti in 2023, which, if you haven't seen, is horrific. And here it is 18 months later. So this is just going to get better, and the fidelity is going to get better, and so on. But to give you an idea of what we're going to do. And I wanted to have, I really wanted these truth bombs to be fun. I owe Marisha Dark and a couple of other people a great deal of thanks for that, because I was making it a little more mocking, and they're right. There's no point in turning off people. I think the thing needs to be lighthearted. And we'll see. Furball says, how do we announce the marathon to non-members? I'll put it up on Facebook and the other channels and so on. But really, it's just going to be that the stream is on. I don't know. I haven't set up any celebrity appearances. This may not be the only stratathon we do. It may not be the only one we do this year. But right now, we just need some cash in the bank. So there you go. All right. So I guess it's time to unveil the truth bomb pitch. The truth bomb is one of many things we're going to be doing at BillWhittle.com. There's going to be a trailer for Major Mace Matting. There's going to be a trailer specifically for the colonies. There's going to be a trailer for story mechanics. And by the way, after some real thinking, I really do actually think it probably makes more sense to move story mechanics to BillWhittle.com. I just don't know if there's any point in trying to grow 2 channels, two sets of subscribers. Right now, story mechanics is something I can monetize, and ultimately, I wanted to keep it separate from me, but you can't separate it from me, and I really shouldn't pretend that it is, So I think I'm gonna release them on BillWhittle.com. I can be talked out of that maybe, but that's my inclination. Okay, so here we go. I am going to play for you now the run-in for the atomic bomb afterburners, and then the outro. The outro will give you a good idea of what truth bomb will be, and I can probably fix some of the Kirk is the guy who was suggested truth bomb. So I might be able to improve some of these images, but you get the idea. Oh, here's Nick. Cheers, Bill, from a loyal viewer in Croatia who got conservatism thanks to you. I may miss a stream or two, but I'm always here. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. So I'd love to see what you guys think about this. If you want to comment in real time, that's great too. And I'm going to sit back and watch it with you. So I'm going to crank it into Twitch first, and then I've got it preloaded into YouTube. So, and I'll probably run this again towards the end of the night. So this is what I've been working on for a lot of days now, and maybe you can tell me what you think. Actually, I'm going to start it on YouTube first. So once again, it might cycle, but if it does cycle, I'll just cut it off. Okay, ready? All right, here we go. So we'll start with YouTube. Hope you like it. Well, hi everybody, I'm Bill Whittle, and I'm standing at the Alamogordo Bombing and Gunnery Range in White Sands, New Mexico on the afternoon of July 15th, 1945, the day before the Trinity test, where a plutonium implosion bomb codenamed Gadget successfully exploded and changed the world forever. Now, I recorded what you're about to see back in 2009 when I was working at PJTV. It was the 3rd or 4th of my Afterburner series. When I started BillWhittle.com, I switched the format to Firewall. Several of those videos broke 1 million views, and most of them easily made it into the mid 6 figures. Combined, I probably did about 200 of them. And then for some reason, it was like somebody turned a wrench. The numbers went down. It went way down. The last 3 that I did barely broke 20,000 each, so I just kind of thought that, YouTube had changed and the internet had changed and people just didn't want to see them anymore. And then something happened. You see, I'm not actually at Alamogordo. I'm in my studio. You can no longer believe your own eyes, and the great deception is about to get much, much worse. Now, it pains me to say so, but some very, very bad ideas have been gaining traction out there. For example, the belief that the Earth is flat is enthusiastically and acrimoniously debated by millions of people every day. And the de-education of America has been accelerating for a decade now, and it's about to go into hyperdrive. So I want to bring back the in-depth, long-format videos like the one you're about to see, but with a lot more visual sizzle to compete for eyeballs in the modern world. Now, if you want to know what that would look like, well, just stick around until after the atomic bombs video, because I'm going to need your help. Until then, here's how Fat Man and Little Boy ended the war. Hey, I'm back. And with the new tools I now have at my fingertips, I think it's time for a third rebranding of the Afterburner Firewall series of videos. I want to call them Truth Bombs. We'll take a series of topics, virtually all of them controversial, and then we'll state the claims fairly and examine and weigh the evidence on both sides, and then see if we can come up with either a definite conclusion if the evidence is good enough, and if it's not, then at least the most likely case answer. And we're not ever going to use the term conspiracy theory either. That's just got way too much baggage. We'll call each case a speculative hypothesis. Now, some of these speculative hypotheses don't on the surface appear to be true, but some of them don't appear to be false either. That's why we're going to break it down the way we did with the atom bombs. Now, some of those hypotheses are in no particular order. And we're back here. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, there. It's nothing better than putting all this work in and have people saying this looks kind of sketchy. But it's. I'm sorry. A second. There we go. Yeah. So I did have turned out I did have the local microphone on, and there was a little bit of echo there, like now. Yeah. So I did have turned out I did have the. It's so much better when you get a chance to do this just on one. Yeah, thank you. It was really fun. And says I'm quiet. Hang on. It's like I said, with 2 of these things, it's practically impossible. I think we're in business. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's going to be it's going to be lighthearted and fun. Thank you very much. The tone is definitely going to be like As the Wave Says, We Can't Hear Me. Check. That's all the volume I got. Um, Anybody else having problems? Oh, yeah, I think you need to refresh. Okay. Yeah, I think it's going to be really going to be fun to do. Um, so I will make it part of my preview channel. One of the things I'm going to do eventually is kind of a biography of I've got like my life story, kind of where I learned how to do all these things, and I'll put that up there too. But Nick wants to know how I got back to the studio and changed my clothes so quickly. Um, it's So the first thing that happens when we get back from the montage with everything is me in a diving helmet or something, saying, "Look, I understand that these things still look a little jinky, not quite perfect, but they will be soon. Here's what Will Smith eating spaghetti 18 months ago looked like, and here's what it looks like now." And I think that you know that's going to be pretty cool. So, yeah, chemtrails was my favorite too. That was really fun. Uh, oh, good. Everybody seems to have the audio back. You need to get to the montage faster in the intro. Yeah, maybe. People say maybe you don't need to cut the stuff about the views being down. That's probably right. It's always good to run things past people. I wouldn't disagree with that. I could just take some of that time out. And now, of course, I'll repackage the end promo once we get past the atomic bomb thing. But right now, that's the best way to kind of dip into it. Yeah, it's always good, like I said, to run things past the past an audience. I will. I'll cut that entire views are down thing. So, Eric liked the shot of Private Eye Bill. Yeah, well, that was fun. That one was a bear, and I just could not get an image of me that looks right. So one of the reasons why the videos look a little jinky is, first of all, you have to do a still that looks enough like me to be usable, and then you animate the still, and it doesn't know what your face really looks like, not yet anyway. And so anytime you turn or anything, it starts looking like it's not you. I did a number of tests where I would look at something, turn, look back, and when I turned back, I had a completely different face. But as you can see, the thing about the AI video, which again is just going to get better and better and better, is that it's flashy, and it gets people's attention, and I'm not sure anybody else is really doing this. So it's going to be fun. One of the things, I'm going to set the rules at the beginning of every one of these things, and one of the things I was actually thinking is kind of interesting is now the flat Earth didn't look flat, but they don't believe it's flat. They believe it's in a dome, the firmament. But the plane that we're standing on is flat. What the heck was I going to say? Oh, like for example, the burden of proof. You can't prove a negative. I haven't done that yet, Gummins. I'm not at that point yet. I'm still just trying. Right now, we just need to get some operating cash in here. Thank you very much, Speed Chuck, for the super chat, and keep it up. What the heck was I going to say? Oh, burden of proof. So, in some cases, like the flat Earth theory, you've got two different competing theories, and you really don't have a burden of proof. The burden of proof on what I found was interesting was that the burden of proof on the moon landing is actually on the people who said we went to the moon. That's who's got the burden of proof on that one. The people who have the burden of proof on 9/11 being an inside job, they've got the burden of proof. You get all of that. So anyway, let me see if let me do this. If anybody's willing to help out and test the registration at the website, that'd be great. Since I no longer have to make an August 6th deadline, I think I'm going to move the website back to WordPress engine, but the plugin module is still the issue. So if you can hang on a second, I will put that link in both streams, and if you can do a test, we can refund your money. I can do it later tonight. Thank you again, Faustonia, for a super chat there. And delete your fake account at billwhittle.com. But we really do need to know if it's working before we go, because I want to put a membership link at the end of this thing. That's not for tomorrow. Tomorrow is the thing. Andrew DeLay says he thinks the over-the-top truth bomb sets of the montage work the best with the slightly uncanny bill. Well, you may be right. I hope you're right. But in any event, it's going to get less and less uncanny every week. They're just improving so fast. So first things first here, before we get to questions, let me do this. Here is the registration site. You will need a credit card. The credit card has to be real. You'll need a credit card and all that information. But again, we don't ever see that information. Go straight to the bank, and when the show is over, I can go right to Recurly and hit a refund, go back to billwhittle.com, cancel the test membership, so Roadrunner says I've already successfully created an account. You can't create an account if you're already a member. You have to use a different email address. You can invent one apparently. That seems to work. Here comes the link in Stripe. I'm sorry, in Twitch, and then in YouTube it is right here. It's warm in here. Please consider turning on Twitch monetization. Hype trains drive their algorithm. You can also use YouTube membership exclusives for early views. That's all great and long overdue. It'd be nice to have a social media person, but there you go. So that's that. So if you, as I said, if you're able to help us test the registration system, you'll need an authentic credit card. I'm not 100% certain of this, but I'm relatively certain that you could pretty much invent an email address. If you already are a member, we've got your email address, and it won't let you form a new membership. It'll just basically let you log in. No problem. Anybody who can't do it, we're certainly grateful for all the support and all the emotional support and all the rest of it. So here's what we'll do. I'm going to get to the questions, and then I'll run this thing again, and then we'll see you tomorrow for the stratathon. And then if there's a ton of questions tonight, I can't do all of them. I'll take them tomorrow, because I've been here a long time, and I can't be here super late. I got to get a right angle edited before I go home, and I need to get some sleep tomorrow because I've been running about 5 hours for the last couple days. So let's see what we got for our questions here. Okay. Number 4. Okay. Now Marisha says you can set on right angle, you can set member to scheduled to give paying YouTube members early access while still spacing them out. That's an excellent idea. That's something I can do relatively quickly if we can just get the wheels turning here. I can basically just sit down and do all, the week's right angles, upload them to YouTube, and then schedule the release. But that way, channel members would get to see them first. So there we go. All right, let me just have a quick look at what we've got here. We got a Roadrunner. We got broke college student Marusha Dark has got an answer to that. I think we got Road Rider, Troy Stevens, Marusha Dark, Capital G Geek. Oh, that's long. Roadrunner, Marusha again, Dave. That's no way. Eric Blake. First of all, I'm not going to do duplicates, and I'm just going to get through as many of these as I can, and we'll see what we get. All right, so we'll start with the Roadrunner. Greetings, friend Bill. As usual, the stupid party is earning its nickname. The GOP currently has a majority in both the House and the Senate, and they seem to be slow rolling any attempt to help President Trump actually make changes to help the country and the American people. There's no real reason why Congress should not be proposing and voting on simple, easy to understand, single issue bills that will make President Trump's executive orders permanent. The boys cannot compete in girls' sports bill, the ending government support of biased media bill, the protecting American communities from criminal aliens bill, et cetera, et cetera. Congress is also dragging their feet in approving President Trump's judicial nominations. Don't the Republicans realize that their passive-aggressive actions are going to seriously hurt their chances in the upcoming midterm elections? So I think the best way to answer this, Roadrunner, is to state the obvious, and the obvious is that there are that the MAGA movement is not the Republican Party or vice versa. It kind of lives in the Republican Party, but the Republican Party is a political party. The MAGA movement is a populist movement, and trying to get career politicians to put the people first is really difficult, really difficult. We saw this with the Tea Party, where there were a bunch of Tea Party candidates who were genuine people. They were not there to go forever. They were true believers in the popular movement, and some of them were terrible candidates. And so there's that reality as well, which I don't think is insurmountable, but you need to acknowledge it. Being a politician is a skill set, and many of the skills you need are skills that are counterindicated for being a good citizen in a republic. Scott Ott has endless tales of his 2 years or whatever it was just on the city council for where was he back in Pennsylvania? He was at Allentown, and he would basically come in and say, we don't need to spend this money. And everybody, Republicans and Democrats, just looked at him like he was from Mars. And they said, Scott would say, we've already got 4 ice skating rinks in Allentown, and the federal ice skating rink grant for $500,000 or for $2 million, we just don't need it. And the politicians would look at him and say, yeah, but they're offering us the money. He said, but we don't need it. And then just can't get it through. Gutman says, unfortunately, good politicians are generally bad people. That's true, and I think the inverse is true too. Good people are usually bad politicians. Now, I think that this MAGA movement is really the real deal, and unlike the Tea Party movement, thank you, Marcia. Unlike the Tea Party movement, MAGA has a actual leader. It's got a structure. It's got a clear message, and it's got staying power. In fact, I think it's getting more influential every day. I think that Trump is doing the difficult things early, and these things are going to pay off later. I feel pretty good about the midterms. I especially feel good about the midterms if this redistricting thing goes through. Steve Turley's really good with the nuts and bolts stuff. I said this before, and I don't mean it in a particularly negative way because he's one of the few people I listen to frequently. But there's something really Jiminy Glick about Dr. Steve. He just sometimes he'll just go way up here with the voice, and you know. But he's got really good analysis of this, and he said if these redistricting, if the Supreme Court rules, because if I understand it correctly, somebody sued the state of Louisiana, took it to the Supreme Court about racial gerrymandering, and the Supreme Court said no, it's not constitutional in Louisiana, and then said also, we don't think it's constitutional anywhere. If it turns out that that is the case, and this racial gerrymandering can be eliminated, then that is, Turley said, that's a 25-seat shift, permanent shift to the GOP. It's a big deal. And you know, the Democrats, thank God, we always talk about the GOP being the stupid party. You mentioned it in the question, but honestly, the Democrats have learned nothing. They're absolutely convinced that they weren't socialist enough. They're running this clown for mayor of New York and Minneapolis, and okay, you know, okay, you're going to get what you voted for. And New York City is really important test subject because, number one, like it or not, it is the number one city in America. It used to be the number one city in the world. I suspect it might still be on some level. You know, Madison Avenue and Wall Street. But the beautiful thing about New York City, hey Phil, good to see you. Thank you, Phil. One of the things that's interesting about New York is you had New York, which was a pit. Well, first of all, it was a center of the world during the 60s and the whole Mad Men thing. And then during the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, it got really, really bad. It became the murder capital of the world. And then along comes a Republican, and whammo, it cleans it right up. And there's, and the crime rate goes down, and all the subways are clean and working. And then I was walking through Times Square at 2 or 3 in the morning in 2016, no problem whatsoever. So if it turns out that New York City goes full socialist and they get their state-run grocery stores and all the rest of this stuff, then okay, it's hard to ignore New York City. If New York City becomes unlivable again, it's not even a question of convincing New Yorkers. It's a question of convincing the rest of the people in the country. I saw something that Nancy Pelosi did today. She said, Nancy Pelosi was saying San Francisco is a beacon to the rest of America. San Francisco is showing America how to be a city. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I'm feeling pretty good about the midterms. I am still. I'm as far as the Epstein thing goes, just because I'm happy to see that at least die down. I was gratified to see I'm very gratified that Dan Bongino stayed in the administration, and I was very gratified and a bit spooked to see that tweet of his. I mentioned it to Natasha and kind of freaked her out a little bit. After the whole Epstein thing, and it looks like the whole thing with Bongino and Bondi and so on, and then Dan Bongino, kind of out of the clear blue sky, says, we are working, diligently behind the scenes and so on. But he said, but I have seen things that essentially said chilled my blood. Dan Bongino's blood doesn't chill easily. The guy was a New York City policeman. He was a Secret Service agent. He's the kind of guy who is psychologically prepared to jump in front of a bullet. And when he said, I've seen things that just make my blood run cold, and this is no way to run a republic, and it's all going to come out. I know I'm getting off the topic here, but and we'll talk about this some more tomorrow night. In fact, I'll save most of it for tomorrow night. But a lot of stuff that I used to just completely dismiss as just nuts, like this, what is it, adrenochrome? I don't know if any of you heard of the audio that is allegedly Leon Panetta with a young boy. It sure sounds like Leon Panetta. And I don't know what else would make a guy like Dan Bongino's blood run cold than something like that. If you haven't heard it, it is very compelling and genuinely horrifying. So we'll probably get in that tomorrow too, and see. But it'd be a good example. Pizzagate and all that stuff. I saw a documentary on Pizzagate, and I thought the whole thing was about them running like an underage sex ring out of a specific pizza place. I thought which may in fact be the case, but what I didn't realize were all of these secret symbols, apparently, that pedophiles have, and this is coming from the FBI, and how many of these symbols are just chucked around places. They're not common symbols. That's something to think about, man. So we'll see. But I was very pleased to see Dan say, "Hey, Busted Nickel." I was very pleased to see Dan say, "We found some blood chilling stuff, and we're working on it." Also, I think there's a pretty good chance that Hillary might find herself indicted. That would be really, really, really nice. Comey, that smug child, man, boy. I'd really like to see them go down. Like as a wave says, anything tell me more about the marathon? I missed the initial announcement. Yeah, starting tomorrow night at 6, we're going to do a 12-hour or 10K stratathon from 6 at night till 6 in the morning. And it'll be pretty much exclusively for PayPal donations, because we're just so delayed in getting this membership thing up and going. But, there you go. I'm very, very grateful for anybody who can help us test out the plugin by the two pinned comments there. Okay, so moving on, what do we have next? Broke college student. Okay. Hello, Bill. Edit Capital G Geek has a related question, so I'd ask you to read his after mine before commenting, okay? Let me find it. All right, let's do that. So we'll read them both. So here's Broke College Student. Last Saturday, July 26th, a black mob attacked a white couple after a jazz event in Cincinnati. It was racial and included jeering from the crowd. The attackers were men and women. It hits close to home because I live in a suburb of Cincinnati, and the attack was in front of my wife's work. Cincinnati proper is 50% black and is in the worst third of cities for crime, mostly concentrated in the downtown area. In 2001, the city had the largest black race riots since the 1960s, and to put it into perspective, the UK only has 6.5% Muslim population. 90s racial unity is cope, as seen in Rodney King riots and the OJ trial. The white middle-aged police chief woman scolded people for releasing video without context, and one of the black city council members posted that the white couple begged for it. I used to be pretty tolerant, and I'm nice with pleasant black people I work with, but I hate blacks as a group now. I view them as enemy irregulars and the police chief as a race traitor. I know you're friends with great blacks like Zoe, and there have been some great black commentators condemning the violence, but don't miss the forest for the trees. It's a small minority. Okay, let's see what Capital G Geek has to add to that. Greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia. My question ties into the assaults on Cincinnati as well. Count Dankula recently did a 2-hour video on Marcus Garvey, which is definitely worth a watch, and here's a link. As a preface, we know that the following issues aren't genetic because of the data from post-Reconstruction, pre-civil rights era, showing blacks on par or ahead of whites in some key metrics. That said, something went very wrong between then and now. Do you know what or when? Obama seems like more of a product of this than the origin. Feel free to stop at any point from here on. What follows is just more data in the same vein. In the U.S., blacks make up 13% of the population, commit 50% of the violent crime. In London, blacks make up 13% of the population, commit 61% of the violent crime. Scott Adams of Dilbert fame recently said that it's not safe for whites to live in communities with significant black populations. I remember the 90s and how non-racial it felt. Yeah, you should have seen the 70s and the 80s. Wesley Snipes and Will Smith, Bill Cosby, pre-allegations. Mariah Carey, Michael Jackson, pre-allegations. Sports ball players, etc. All of that culture seems to be gone. Best summed up by this post from 4chan that goes around frequently. The reason white racism is increasing is because this generation of young white men were raised to be the least racist generation of whites to ever exist on the history of the planet. We all grew up being taught that racism was bad, and we were all going to move past it and work together towards a better future. Even here in the most traditionally racist part of the country, nearly every young white boy in my generation grew up watching black athletes, black actors, listening to black musicians, etc. It was all normal. We were 95% post-racial. I agree with everything so far. So as we got older, we stuck our heads out in friendship to everyone, like we'd been taught to, and then every non-white group on the planet came by and sucker punched us from behind, calling us evil white devils, and told us we deserved to die. We were ready and willing to move on from the past. The rest of you weren't. Instead of shaking our hands and marching off together, you chose revenge against the only white people who've ever let their guard down. So now we won't be your friends. We're reforging the identity we were taught to shed. There's plenty of videos of shoplifting, brawls at unexpected places like Waffle House, Denny's, and unexpected places like theme parks and church. Just one of examples of calls to violence and so on. Yeah. This is a sensitive topic, but my defense has always been just going to speak to what appears to be true to me. And that's, if you're not willing to do that, then you're probably in the wrong line of work. Let me get back to the chat for Twitch. Well, there's a couple things I think are undeniably true. It is undeniably true that racial tensions used to be much lower than they are now, and it's undeniably true that white people reprogram themselves. I'm not saying that all whites were racist. Needless to say, obviously that's not true. We fought a civil war and had 500,000 people killed freeing slaves, and so that just needs to be said. The turning point, I think you can blame, I think you really have a right to blame 80 or 90% of this on one individual person. And that individual person is Barack Obama. Barack Obama, the left had, the progressive left and the whole woke ideology, political correctness, critical race theory, all that stuff existed prior to Obama. But people voted for this unknown senator who had a pretty shady past, and the whole thing with Reverend Wright and all of it. And in 2008, the American people, as a large percentage, turned out and voted for Barack Obama because he was black. There was no other reason to vote for the guy. He had essentially no credentials. Everybody knew he was a left-winger and kind of a communist. But the reason people voted for him in 2008 was because, the reason white people voted for him in 2008 was because white people were determined to say to the world, to black Americans and Hispanic American, Latino Americans and everybody else, not just in America but in the whole world, that we had gotten over this, and that we were it wasn't even virtue signaling. It was it was a demonstration of authenticity. And Barack Obama could have, if he really did love this country the way he says he did, he could have closed the deal. He could have basically healed that wound permanently, but he didn't. He tore it open. Barack Obama could have, on his inauguration speech, Barack Obama should have, and I think was expected by a large number of the people that voted for him, white people anyway, that voted for him. Barack Obama could have, during his first inauguration, said, America's racial history is complex and sometimes tragic, often uplifting and exemplary. But the fact that the United States of America, this is Barack Obama talking, the fact that the United States has elected a black man president of the country means that the country cannot in any way be considered to be a racist country. There's not another black leader of a majority white country anywhere in the world. Anywhere. And we have done an incredible amount of work on both sides to get to this point, something we should all celebrate. And Barack Obama could have become a great man, even if he didn't do anything else, even if he had basically just trashed everything else. He could have closed the deal and gone down in history as the great uniter and the guy who basically closed the door on America's deepest wound, right? He could have done that, but he didn't. He was already in office for, 3 months when remember when that guy broke into a neighbor's house and somebody called the cops and the person claimed he broke into his own house or something, right? Black guy breaks into his own house. Somebody sees this, calls the cops. Reasonable thing to do. If you see somebody climbing through the window of your neighbor's house or a house down the street, you don't know who lives there. That's a reasonable thing to do. And Obama came out and said, and immediately went with the narrative was that this was a racist thing because the guy was black. It's like, nope. But that's just where he went. He was a community organizer, a rabble rouser is what he was. And he not only didn't close the deal, but he understood what Lyndon Johnson understood, and that is that nobody wants to buy Democrat policies, and nobody really ever has. And so the big, the left says, oh, well, yes, it's true that the Democrats were the slaveholders, and yes, it's true that the Democrats leaving the country formed the Confederacy, and yes, it's true that the Democrats were the Confederacy, and yes, it's true that the Democrats started the Ku Klux Klan, and yes, it's true that it were all the Democrats who wrote and enforced the Jim Crow laws, but then the two parties changed sides. And that's just absolutely ridiculous. It just doesn't make any sense. Why would you change sides? You don't go at halftime at a football game and then the two teams just switch uniforms for no reason. It doesn't make any sense. What happened was Lyndon Johnson in 1964 looked at the electoral map and said, if we don't get 80% of the black vote, we will never win another national election again. So he decided that instead of putting black people on plantations, the way now Johnson, to be fair to Johnson, was in fact a genuine civil rights believer. When he was before he even got into Congress, he went down and taught at really poor Mexican schools. So Johnson, I think, had his heart, if not his intention, in the right place. But in any event, he said, no, what we need to do is we need to give them stuff, make them dependent on the government. And Johnson said, I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And that's exactly what happened. So blacks as a group became dependent on government handouts. If somebody comes to you, especially if you're in tight economic shape, and somebody says, we're going to give you free money and free housing, and we're going to give you free food, and we're going to give you all this stuff, people are going to take it. But what that ended up doing was creating a culture of dependency. Now, I mentioned this on the right angle, one of the right angles I haven't edited yet. So let me tell you about my little experiment in dependency. Back in the early '80s, after I got out of college, went back to South Florida, and I was moving around in South Miami circles trying to get movies made, and I was at this event and talked to some attorneys about this movie deal I wanted to do, and this one attorney said, I'll tell you what, I'll draw up the limited partnership agreement for this film thing, and I'll do it for free. And I thought, wow, that's fantastic. And I thought, essentially it's boilerplate, right? It's legal boilerplate. Back in those days especially, you had to do a limited partnership and you had to have a legal prospectus that basically said to people, you are putting your money at risk and so on and so on and so on. You just outline all the risk. Okay, so great. So we had a little bit of money raised and I was living on that, and then This guy said, "Yeah, give me 2 weeks." So I called him at the end of 2 weeks, and I got him. He said, "Yeah, try me again next Thursday." So this was Tuesday. He said, "Try me again next Thursday." So I had 8 days to wait, and I just sat around waiting because I had nothing else I could do until this thing went. And I called back, and I got the receptionist, and she said he's out until Monday, and this went on for 3 freaking months. And the more, the longer it went on, the longer the delays between the two. And I was absolutely as miserable as I've ever been because my entire life was on hold waiting for somebody else to do something for me. And he never did it. Would have been nice if he'd said so in the beginning. Would have been nice if after he offered to do it, if I said, "Hey, when can I expect this?" If he said, "Bill, I was in the moment and you were great and stuff, and it's a great pitch, but I just can't do it." But he didn't do that. He just kept putting me off, putting me off, putting me off. And if I would call on a Monday and they would say, "Try again next Friday," I would go into neutral. Um, I just felt like there's nothing I can do without this. And so I have to just basically wait. And it puts you in a state of despondency and lethargy. It's like hitting with a stun gun. My friend Fritz at the time was an actor, and he was doing really, really well. And we were working together on this movie thing, and I was struggling, and Fritz had helped me out with electric bills and so on. So I basically made this pitch to him saying, "Hey, if you could pay my rent, that I could work on this movie, full time." And he said, "No, I don't think I want to do that." And I was furious with him, furious with my best friend at the time, who had done so much for me, but hadn't done enough. And this is the mindset you get into. You're sitting there waiting. You have no sense of control. You have no sense that if this is going to happen, it's going to happen because of your hard work. You need to get up early and get out the door and get cooking, and have 15 fires in the iron instead of one. No, I just got. It was really, really embarrassing. Now, many, many years later, I paid him back all the money that he had lent me over the years, and then I gave him my car, which was in pretty good shape. When I got the Camaro, I had a car that was I don't know, 6, 7 years old, and was still probably worth it, $5,000 or something like that. And I just gave it to him, just to let him know how much I appreciated all that and how sorry I was for all of the crapulence that I was inflicting on him, and which he took with astonishing goodwill, as does Phil and all the rest of these people that knew me back in my Looney Tune days. And so I have some experience with the mindset, but we also have to get down to the brass tacks about what you're saying. This black fatigue is real, and what I'm seeing on Facebook, and I've seen, and it's relatively recent, I would say within the last 6 months, is I'm seeing white people commenting on black violence with on one hand with a kind of an honesty, and on the other hand with an absolute disregard for things that used to modify your opinion, right? For example, you see, and almost all of this is black women, huge black women. You'll see them getting into a fist fight on an airplane at 35,000 feet, and there's 7 of them, and they're all sea mammals, and they're just climbing over chairs and airline seats and pulling each other's wigs off and punching each other in the face and so on, and people are just saying, the usual suspects, "I've had enough of it. I've had enough. I'm just done." And I'm seeing more and more and more of this, and I don't blame them, frankly, because I'm feeling the same way. It's I think the it's really, this is where we need to be fair. Yeah, Battle Smurf says many black people are getting tired of black fatigue also. So if you look at what the actual what the studies show, um, they have IQ bell curves. And for all the people who are talking about white supremacy and who might be accusing me of white supremacy, I need to point out that of these IQ bell curves, Asians are shifted considerably to the smarter end of the bell curve than whites, and European Jews are shifted dramatically to the right of people like me. So the a lot of people say IQ doesn't measure anything, and that it's racist, and so it's not. People talk about things like, well, you have emotional intelligence, or you have athletic intelligence. That's undefining intelligence. Um, the the IQ levels in sub-Saharan Africa are considerably lower than they are in Europe, and if you say that's not true, then you're just ignoring the reality of it. But what I find is when I look at these videos of people just crashing out and stealing, just taking stuff off the shelves, I find that I see lots and lots of black people doing this, lots and lots of this, and it makes me furious. And then I'll see white people doing it, and it makes me furious too. The kind of ghetto behavior from whites, that kind of entitlement and that disrespect for law enforcement, all of it, and that's when I realized that it's not really so much black fatigue as it's lawlessness fatigue. Now, the bell curve does enter into this because you can't argue with the statistics. Uh, you'd said it was 50% of it's ghetto fatigue is a better term. You say it's 50% of the violent crimes committed by blacks in this country. I heard it was actually a little higher. And you said it's 13% of the population, but to be honest with you, it's actually closer to 7% of the population that's causing 50 to 60% of the violent crimes, because most of the actual murders and assaults and rapes and so on are not committed by the black race, they're committed by black males. And when I talked about last time I was on a college campus, I said I care more about black people than the Black Lives Matter people in the crowd do, because the Black Lives Matter people were talking about policemen murdering blacks, which was 4% of the total black murders in 2017. 4% of the blacks murdered in 2017 were murdered by policemen or shot by policemen, and that includes if the black guy went up to a white cop and shot him in the face and the cop shot him back and killed him. That's not like 4% of black deaths were just gunned down in the streets. So if the Black Lives Matter movement is designed to focus on 4% of the total number of black lives that are being killed, and not only not address the 96%, but actively deny it, then that's not a serious movement. That is a political movement. That's not about that. If you really want to lower the number of blacks that are killed in this country, you can install by force Republican mayors into these cities, because if you take away the urban crime rate, suburban and country and rural America has a lower murder rate than any country in Europe. It's lower than Finland. It's lower than Belgium. And this is a thing that foreigners don't understand. Fiery Waco says if we start talking about IQ levels, we're going to get canceled. Well, then I get canceled. I think the smartest person that I see out there today is Thomas Sowell. And that's not just lip service on my part. I think the person who has the finest moral character I've ever encountered in history, all human history, is Booker T. Washington. So I don't understand exactly how that can be. That's not like I've got black friends. That's a recognition of the fact that the judgment based on the skin color is immoral and wrong and racist. But you also have to acknowledge that 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 the culture is so degraded. It's just so astonishingly vulgar and degraded and tolerant of these impulsive behaviors. Uh, and Clarence Thomas, obviously, um, you know, impulse control is a function. Having low impulse control is generally a lower IQ issue, but it is also uh, very clearly a societal one. We were not allowed to climb over booths in in restaurants when we were kids because um, we kept being disciplined for that kind of thing. So to pretend that it's not an issue is not helping anybody. But what percentage of the problem actually is it? I think it's I think it's a relatively small percent. I think what happens is that it influences a culture, and then the culture reinforces the problem. Um, so I don't know what to say other than what appears to be the truth to me. Um, the that those overlapping bell curves. Let me just state this. In fact, let me make this point because this is an important point to make. Okay, about the IQ issue. It seems to be true that Asians have a noticeable, statistically significant higher IQ than whites. 103, 104, something like that. Now, if that's all there was to it, then Asia and China would rule the world, but they don't. The Europeans went in there and just kicked their butts. It was the Europeans who explored the world. You know, it wasn't the Aztecs who sailed in enormous ships, landed in England, and then sacked London. It didn't work that way. And so to say that this whole thing is just an IQ argument, a racial-based IQ argument, is missing the point. There is a secret sauce there, and there's something about European Western culture that has unlocked the key, and is available to anybody. And this is the thing. See, the proof that this is accessible to everybody is in Tuskegee Institute. Booker T. Washington demanded his students, he held them to such high standards that the Tuskegee students had not only higher test scores than white students, but they also had a higher legitimacy rate. More of them were married. In fact, black families held together stronger than white families. There were more black fathers in a family right up until the 60s. It was 86, 87% for black families. And the black church held them together. And then Lyndon Johnson and the birth control pill and feminism and all the rest of it came along and smashed that family unit, and smashed white family units, who smashed all the family units. And what ended up coming out of the wreckage of dependency and anger and all the rest of it was what we see today. And so people say, well, is there white privilege? And the answer to that is there is no institutionalized white privilege. I don't believe there's any institutionalized racism. In fact, on the contrary, I think that women and so-called people of color have a great many advantages that white people, especially white males, especially straight white males, especially straight white Christian males, don't have. But there is white privilege, and my white privilege is that I have never ever been told by anybody that somebody was keeping me down. I've never ever had anyone tell me that my failures were the fault of anyone other than my own character flaws and lack of discipline and all the rest of it. So that's that's it. The Western, again, see, it's important that we play both sides of this issue. P.G. O'Rourke talked about going to Ukraine in the 80s, and he said he went to this little Ukrainian village, and there was a sewer, an open sewer that ran through the center of the town. Now you see that in Africa, and you see it in Latin America, and you see it in Ukraine. And he said something I never forgot. He said, O'Rourke said that there's not an American, red-blooded American male alive who could look at a village like that and not say to himself, give me $200 and an hour at Home Depot, and I'll fix this problem forever. We'll just build a sewer. We'll fix it forever. And so it's not. In order to understand this issue, you have to understand this one thing: that the Western mind is different. That the default state of humanity is to throw things away on the ground, and to live in hovels, and the idea of doing extra work up front in order to get benefits down the road and have a high trust society is a aberration from human behavior. You know, you sit in the U.S. and you say, you know, it's a third world shithole. Well, almost all of them are, and almost all of them throughout history were. If you look at London in really up into World War One, London during medieval times, it was just people just pouring their chamber pots out the window, and during the Industrial Revolution, you know, they just got children working in factories, and 60 or 40% of the women were prostitutes. You know, they're just shitholes, and you have to learn how to not have that mindset. But when everybody who is around you raises you that way, as was the case with me, and I'm sure with most of you, then you don't get that kind of message. And I mentioned this several times, but it just moved me so much. I just thought it was so interesting. I don't know, 20 years ago or something, this white liberal, real San Francisco liberal, and he decided he was just going to go and live in the projects. So he lived with the poorest people in the city for, I think, I want to say, for about 2 years. And he said that so much of what he saw was just plain bad decision making because there was no comparison, nothing to compare it to. The example I've told many times on the show, just stuck with me. He said he was living in this project, housing project, and he was pretty much the only white guy there. And he came up to his third floor or whatever, to his apartment, and there was a couch that was out in the hallway. And the hallway was so narrow that you couldn't walk around the couch, you had to step over it. And what had happened was this family had found a couch that somebody left on the side of the road. They brought their couch up to the apartment, put it in the apartment, took their old couch out, and just left it in the hall. And it's not only an inconvenience, it's a fire hazard and so on. They just left it there. They just didn't care. And that is the problem, is this lack of foresight, this lack of ability to understand that you have to do difficult things sometimes in order to live better. So I'll tell you, there's a recent situation with Carnival Cruise Lines. This is something I've been watching closely. Carnival Cruise Lines was basically known as, the Ratchet Express, the ghetto of the seas, and fights breaking out all the time and so on. And Carnival Cruise Lines recently, like a month ago, basically realized that they were getting the reputation as being the place to go, like Spirit Airlines and Frontier to some degree, but Spirit Airlines got the same reputation. And fights breaking out all the time, and life was just really miserable for anybody who wasn't in that kind of partying mood. So Carnival, just a month ago or so, basically instituted some rules, and some of the rules that I remember off the top of my head are no marijuana of any kind at any time, anywhere. None of these little Bluetooth speakers, because people would go into the dining room uh, and they would put their Bluetooth speaker on their table and blast out their own music at 100 decibels. And if you didn't want to listen to that, too bad for you. And they put a curfew after hours, and a lot of black people said that this was an anti-black move, and so on. To me, it's just a civilization move, and Carnival did a lot to shed that image. And so, but what was it that Carnival really did, right? Carnival just said we're going to enforce civility, just basic civility, right? We're not saying you can't drink, we're not saying you can't party. What we're saying is you don't get to put your Bluetooth speaker next to somebody and blast it out. If you, it's just inconsiderate. And this kind of entitlement and this kind of lack of concern for other people is what makes a society either work or not work. And now we can have a chance to after, I'm sure, well, Media Matters is going out of business, so that's kind of useful. But it's important to be fair both ways. And so I think the thing that you need to say here too is it is in many ways a product of the culture. And if you look at what's happening to Paris and London, these cities are turning into complete shitholes. And it's Islam. It's just plain Islam. And there's no other explanation for it. There just isn't. It is a extremely brutal religion, and it is predicated around the idea that the people who are not Islamic need to be conquered or killed, and that's how they're treated. I saw something on the way in today. I think it happened in Italy, and it was a Islamic tandem parachute experience. I think it was in Italy. So you know how the tandem parachute works, right? You got an instructor in the back. He's got a big chute. He's clipped to a harness, and then the other person has a harness but not a parachute. So you get to free fall on your first skydive. And they went out of the plane, and the chute opened, and then this guy just starts groping this woman and just molesting her in the air. People have had enough of this. Civilized people. I've seen a number of black Americans commenting on how tired they are of this kind of behavior, mostly among, at least most visibly among black communities. But again, you see this kind of entitlement all across the culture, and it just drives me nuts. I have a very, very simple racism test. It's so simple to me anyway, and you can apply this to yourself. I'm going to say you were watching the show Cops, although Cops is not anymore. We have the body cams, but just for the sake of the argument, well, if you're watching something on TV and you see a white policeman take down a black criminal, and you go, hooray. But then you see a black policeman take down a white criminal. If you say hooray, you're not a racist. You're just anti-criminal. If you're always on the white guy's side or always on the black guy's side, then you're a racist. And for me, when I see, I just can't stand criminals. I just hate them. I just hate them. I hate crime. I hate looting especially. And so when I see a black police officer pull some young white liberal out of her car because she's given him nothing but attitude and refuses to comply with orders, I am so far on that cop's side. So that's where my bias is, I don't control who goes into the criminal, not criminal bins. I just know that's the side I'm on. I'm not on the white side. I'm on the civilization side. And to the degree that you are in the civilization bin, you are welcome there, whatever you look like. And if you're on the side of savagery and lawlessness, uh, then then I'm against you no matter what you look like. And that is really it. I really don't think it gets any more simple than that. When I see when I see black policemen taking down white criminals, or like I said, with these body cams of these young white liberal women who've never been told no, this princess treatment. Get out of the car, ma'am. No, I'm not getting out of the car. Get out of the car. What did I do? Get out of the car, ma'am. Get up, ma'am. This is your last warning. I'm going to break your window. It goes on for 25, 30 minutes. Finally, they break the window, open the door, pull her out, and she said, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. That's why you're being arrested. You didn't do anything. You were ordered to get out of the car. You didn't do anything. You were ordered to open the door. You didn't do anything. You were ordered to put your hands behind you without resisting. You didn't do anything. It's just plain awful, and it's getting worse. And 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 the whole hip hop culture is so unspeakably toxic that you don't there are no words for it. It really defies imagination, actually. And so when you put kids into that kind of environment, what do you think you're going to get? What do you think you're going to get? So, Dave Olson for a $20 super chat. Greetings to my fellow anti-crime, pro-civilization strato peeps. That's it. That's how I feel. Like I said, I don't control who goes into those bins. But at the same time, I'm not blind to the behavior either. And this is the difference between me and liberals. Liberals see the same thing that we see, but they just refuse to acknowledge any of it. They stick their head in the sands and say that this has got nothing to do with anything, when in point of fact it does have something to do with something. So it comes back to this conservative belief in the individual, and that's what I believe in. I believe in the individual. And when people say, do you hate black people? I say, who are we talking about? Who are we talking about? These people that walk into a Target and just load stuff into a bag and just walk right out the door. Yes, I hate those people. I hate them. And that's how that works, man. That's how it works. Miles says I'm racist against stupid. There was a joke on King of the Hill, wasn't there a joke where I've forgotten her name now, the ditzy blonde niece, where she said that tests were racist against people who didn't study, something like that, right? So there you go. Yeah, it's obviously a nuanced thing. You cannot, Luann, you cannot assume that kind of behavior on basis of skin color, but you also can't ignore the numbers. And I can do both because I feel like I've got a good heart, and I'm able to deal with both of these realities. So there you go. That's my answer on that issue, and whatever happens, but that's how I feel, and I think that's the truth. Okay, so what we got here? Road Rider. Well, no, that was a comment and a question. Moving on. Hi, Bill. Hi, Rider of the Road. I just got back from 10 days working in Thailand and Taiwan. Everyone seems to have an opinion of Elon Musk these days. I do too. Thank our lucky stars he saw the opportunity and profit in Twitter.x. Yes, if Elon Musk had not bought Twitter, I don't know that we would have won the election in 2024. Let me just say one thing, by the way, about this last topic. I can see the big picture sometimes, and I can see when lies are presented, and they're lies that people want to believe, and this is growing like wildfire among blacks and Latinos, is the idea that white people didn't build anything, that the entire country was built by immigrants, that white people didn't do anything, and that blacks invented televisions and cell phones, and Africa had all these civilizations that were buried by white people, and this whole thing is very appealing to them. but it's just absolutely true, and I mean untrue, and and it's got to stop. British school kids are being taught now that Stonehenge was built by black people, and it's we we really we need to be careful about all that. See you later there, Dave. Good to see you, buddy. Thank you for the super chat. It's very kind of you. Anyway, sorry. Back to Road Rider. Talking about Elon Musk, and he saw, thank our lucky stars he saw opportunity and profit in Twitter/X. On my trip, I was able to see what was going on in the world by simply pressing that black X on my phone half a world away. In about a second, I was up to date. Years ago, as in before X, if you were away on a business trip out of the country, sources of info were more difficult to get. The question, with everything that is happening every day, do you ever take a moment and think about what life would be like if Jack hadn't sold Twitter to Elon? And that and Bongino and Gabbert might just be twin paladins. Yes. Bongino and Gabbert, yes. And yes, I think about it a lot. A lot of what we were talking about in the previous question, I've seen on X. The thing about freedom of speech is, if you have, well, social media, if you have just one social media channel that's free, if YouTube is censored, and Facebook recently really radically uncensored themselves, is much more slack in Facebook now than there used to be. But if you free one of them, then the message will get out because they connect to everything else, and I think Elon must save the country. I really do. I think he saved the country when he bought that social media platform. Because not only did he shut down the censorship in a very popular platform, he did open it up. He didn't make it. They said he's turned it into a right-wing thing. No, he's turned it into an open forum where right-wing voices are not being excluded. And that to the left looks like a huge move to the right. So they all started their blue sky social. Now everybody's leaving that because it's just an echo chamber for their own ideas. There you go. And I do miss those very few months. It seemed like it was only 4 or 5, where Musk and Trump were really pulling the same harness in the same direction. That was good while it lasted. But the bottom line is, we won that election, and if we hadn't, I never give up, and I never give up on America, but it would have been a whole different world now. Whole different world. P7 2017 says, okay, Bill, but are we to make anything of the fact that no other social media platform has followed suit? Well, like I said, Facebook got a lot less censored when Zuckerberg realized that he may get hauled in front of a Congress that will no longer allow him to circle back. And the destruction of USAID has caused the bankruptcy of Media Matters, and all of those slush funds. NPR has said they're going out of business. These are significant changes. That's a great line. Wesley, my friend Wesley Bruce said, Facebook got sued into sanity. I really like the way that sounds. And so things are definitely changing. Obviously, the one that I'd like to see, I would like YouTube to have an algorithm that put things in front of you based on what it thought your interests were. But once you subscribed, then I think it has an obligation, once you click the subscribe button, to put the product in front of the people that made that decision. That's my only problem with YouTube. I got 187,000 subscribers. We get 4,000 views on a right angle. That's just crummy, man. That's just really low. It's really crummy. But I agree with you completely about Bongino and Gabbert. And Gabbert coming forward with the whole thing and mentioning Obama and treason in the same sentence, I thought, wow, that was awesome. So, There's that. Troy Stevens. Bill, I hope you're doing well. Thank you, Troy. Good to see you. In your in browsing recent X posts about the Tesla diner that just opened in LA, it looked to me like the kind of encouragement a guy searching for our lost future might get a kick out of. If you paid the Tesla diner a visit or might plan to, I'd really enjoy hearing how it's rich. You've never even heard of it. You might see me at you on a post where at Cybertrailer described it as nostalgic and inspiring, everything good about America's past wrapped into one small facility from the future, and a reminder that everything can't be a problem. Sounds to me like the kind of thing we could use more of. Hope it gives your spirits a well-deserved lift. If you have a chance to check it out, best wishes and thanks again for all you do. And here's a oh, how cool is that? Let me drag that image into the frame here. Oops, hang on. Yeah, just the first look at it, it's like, wow, man, this looks awesome. Hopefully, I could go there in Los Angeles without being attacked or have paint or blood poured on me, but you never know. Here's the Tesla diner. Cool beans. Here comes for YouTube. Bitchin'. That's just epic, man. That looks absolutely fantastic. I guess you have to have a Tesla to park in the parking lot. So those are all Tesla Cybertrucks, obviously. But yeah, if I don't know when this thing opened, but if it had opened a couple of months ago, I'd be amazed if the windows weren't all smashed, by the tolerant and peaceful, friendly, loving left. And we'll get rid of that guy right there, why don't we? Come on. Boom. So yeah, it looks really cool. Thanks. I'd never heard of it. Maybe we'll go check it out. So here's what I'm thinking. We still got a couple questions to go, but I can feel my voice getting a little sore, and I'm going to need it tomorrow for sure. So I think what we'll do is call this a day, and what I'll do is sometime during the stratathon tomorrow, I'll come back and get the questions that we didn't get. Hang on, let me just see if there's anything pressing. Looking forward to seeing how the bank transactions worked. I won't make this a mystery. Let's find out. Show me some green dots, will you please, Curly? Two green dots. That's good, though. Phil Trick and test member. I don't know if anybody got the... well, we don't have any black dots, so that's telling me it's probably working. That's an encouraging sign. Thank you, test member. And I see your name there. I'm just not going to mention it. And thanks, Phil. Here come your refunds. You know what? I'll do this off the air. I'll just do it as soon as we close. It's pointless for me to watch this. Just need to make sure I do this right. Okay, so we are starting tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific. And it's only 8 p.m. Pacific now. We've only been doing this for 2 hours, and I would have 10 hours to go tomorrow. Well, that's gonna be a night. But that's what a marathon is, man. I guess that's the whole point of a marathon, is to show your the intensity of your desire. So, I'll get a lot of sleep and play with the AI a little more probably, and we'll see. I really do need to edit a right angle tonight. I don't really want to do that, but I will, and get that up. So, yeah, we'll give it a try. We'll see what happens. If I feel like I'm about to pass out or something, then I'm going to have to shut it down, or I'll just pass out on the chair and you can watch me sleep. Yeah, we'll see. So that'll be a challenge. It'll be fun. Should get some work done though, so that's something anyway. Until then, until tomorrow, we will see you then. Thanks again. The show's made possible by the members at BillWhittle.com, and we're working on getting more of them. Oh, and I'll run the video on the way out too. So that would be great. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. And we'll get as far as we can get. So here's the truth bomb thing again. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you guys again tomorrow evening for the first stratathon. Well, hi everybody, I'm Bill Whittle, and I'm standing at the Alamogordo Bombing and Gunnery Range in White Sands, New Mexico on the afternoon of July 15th, 1945, the day before the Trinity test, where a plutonium implosion bomb codenamed Gadget successfully exploded and changed the world forever. Now, I recorded what you're about to see back in 2009 when I was working at PJTV. It was the third or fourth of my Afterburner series. When I started BillWhittle.com, I switched the format to Firewall. Several of those videos broke 1 million views, and most of them easily made it into the mid-six figures. Combined, I probably did about 200 of them. And then, for some reason, it was like somebody turned a wrench. The numbers went down. They went way down. The last three that I did barely broke 20,000 each, so I just kind of thought that, YouTube had changed and the internet had changed, and people just didn't want to see them anymore. And then something happened. You see, I'm not actually at Alamogordo. I'm in my studio. You can no longer believe your own eyes, and the great deception is about to get much, much worse. Now, it pains me to say so, but some very, very bad ideas have been gaining traction out there. For example, the belief that the Earth is flat is enthusiastically and acrimoniously debated by millions of people every day. And the de-education of America has been accelerating for a decade now, and it's about to go into hyperdrive. So I want to bring back the in-depth, long-format videos like the one you're about to see, but with a lot more visual sizzle to compete for eyeballs in the modern world. Now, if you want to know what that would look like, well, just stick around until after the atomic bombs video, because I'm going to need your help. Until then, here's how Fat Man and Little Boy ended the war. Hey, I'm back. And with the new tools I now have at my fingertips, I think it's time for a third rebranding of the Afterburner Firewall series of videos. I want to call them Truth Bombs. We'll take a series of topics, virtually all of them controversial, and then we'll state the claims fairly and examine and weigh the evidence on both sides, and then see if we can come up with either a definite conclusion if the evidence is good enough, and if it's not, then at least the most likely case answer. And we're not ever going to use the term conspiracy theory either. That's just got way too much baggage. We'll call each case a speculative hypothesis. Now, some of these speculative hypotheses don't on the surface appear to be true, but some of them don't appear to be false either. That's why we're going to break it down the way we did with the atom bombs. Now, some of those hypotheses are in no particular order.